Heartbeat Alaska is made possible by the following. By Coca-Cola, serving Alaska quality soft drinks since 1937. By Cook Inlet Region Incorporated, an Alaska Native corporation promoting economic and social progress for people throughout the state.
And by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute, educating consumers and promoting sales of Alaska seafood throughout the U.S. and in international markets.
There's a heartbeat, louder than thunder, revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool?
Hello and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. I'm Jeannie Green. Thank you so much for joining us for more Native news. Hello to Wayne and Susan Jones in Kotzebue, Alaska. I understand that they're great fans of our program, and we appreciate that very much. And also, hello to our viewers in Mississippi. The Mississippi Bandit Choctaw Nation are now watching Heartbeat Alaska, and we appreciate your viewership. Let's travel to the North Slope Borough on today's program, and then on down to Montana for their news from Annette Brown and the good people in the Salish Kootenai Reservation. And then over to Koliganek, Alaska and Savoonga, all that plus much more. But first, here's Gary Fife with Native news across the nation.
This is Native News Across the Nation. I'm Gary Fife. This week in the nation's capital, the subject of the budget for the Bureau of Indian Affairs had tribal leaders from across the nation worried about the agency. Arizona Senator John McCain, chairman of the Senate Indian Affairs Committee, charged the BIA with continuing fiscal irresponsibility and failure to manage its money. But tribal leaders defended the troubled agency, saying the cuts go too deep for tribal resources to ever make up the difference. Interior Secretary Bruce Babbitt came to the defense of the BIA, saying perhaps the ideas for cuts at the agency should be put on hold for the rest of the legislative session. It looks like members of the Mescalero Apache tribe of New Mexico have decided against hosting a nuclear waste dump on their reservation. Tribal officials have been pursuing the idea of a monitored retrieval storage site, an MRS, for years now, with many Apaches opposed to it. In the second tribal referendum on the issue, the tribe voted heavily against the plan. It looks like the two Tlingit teenagers exiled to islands off the coast of southeast Alaska are going to be experiencing a lot more isolations from now on. A tribal court overseeing the punishment says no one else will be allowed to visit the two. Tribal Court Administrator Diana Wynne James has declared rehabilitation cannot take place for the two if people interfere with the process or if the two begin thinking they are stars. Adrian Guthrie and Simon Roberts were convicted of beating and robbing a pizza delivery driver in Washington and turned over to the tribal court by a Snohomish County judge as an alternative to state prison. Now the Snohomish prosecutor wants the teenagers returned to Washington for sentencing. The Seminole Nation of Oklahoma doesn't take care of its mixed-race members, or so says a lawsuit filed on their behalf. The plaintiffs are Seminoles of Native and African American heritage, and they're charging the tribe with discrimination that bars them from receiving compensation paid by the U.S. government and many tribal services. The settlement comes for actions taken by the U.S. in the 1820s and the 1830s, and that now amounts to $52 million. The suit claims many mixed-race Seminoles are still barred from receiving help from various tribal programs. The decisions have been made as to who gets how many strikes during the upcoming bowhead whaling season in Alaska. Members of the Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission met in Borough to allocate the harvest to 10 villages. A new twist on this year's hunt will be a requirement for information on kill efficiency. The Alaska Native Commission and its international counterpart, the International Whaling Commission, are both concerned about reducing the numbers of whales struck and lost. The village of Borough has been given the largest allocation with 22. An agreement approved by the membership opposes the sale of whale meat taken in traditional hunts. And finally, in South Dakota, a resident who has possessed the partial remains of 3 natives has given them back to the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. Dennis Bridenstine, who has had the bones for about 30 years, got them after his uncle gave them to him as a child. Bridenstine said he was moved to give the remains back after 2 Lakota friends visited him and, in a dignified manner, told him the display of bones was offensive. He said he hoped his action would prompt other non-native individuals to return native remains to tribes. And I'd like to extend a special welcome to our Mississippi Choctaw viewers who have just joined us. This is Native News Across the Nation. For Heartbeat Alaska, I'm Gary Fife.
It happens quickly, unexpectedly. And as an Alaskan, it's more likely to happen to you than to anyone else in the United States. Isn't now the time to start thinking about fire prevention?
This message was brought to you by the Yukon-Kuskokwim Health Corporation as part of the National Community Volunteer Fire Safety Project.
We have always felt in harmony with the land.
Chakome, tapiwa, ta skumok, ta tapiachu, kenok anesche, matapiwa, makaspumos, akun.
Help the Soil Conservation Service help our earth. Call us today. We owe it to our children.
Thank you, Gary Fife. Let's travel now to the North Slope Borough. There's a new college opening up there. Tina Corwin reports.
Thank you, Jeannie. With a feast, fanfare, and fireworks, the staff of the Mayor's Workforce Development Program and the Arctic Savoonga Ilisagvik College threw a grand opening and celebration at the new Ilisagvik College campus in Borough on February 27th. The old Naval Arctic Research Laboratory compound was barely recognizable after sweeping renovations and remodeling. Throughout the day and into the evening, community members, students, and visitors gathered to witness the culmination of a dream that began when Eben Hobson Sr., the North Slope Borough's first mayor, called for educational self-determination for the people of the North Slope.
With the opening of Ilisagvik, a dream is coming true for many of us who struggled so hard. It's a dream come true not only for us, but for our children. Here we have a campus that is steeped in the tradition of our culture. Here we have a campus that is sensitive to students from small villages who may feel lost on large campuses.
As we create the future, we must always keep in mind that we are building on the works of others. It is out of human ardor. It's the hard work of people and the caring of people that make these kinds of things possible. None of us accomplish great things alone.
In spite of a 60 below wind chill, a crowd gathered at the height of the festivities to pull together and uncover Borough's first billboard. Pulling together is the slogan for the Ilisagvik College. Ilisagvik is an Inupiaq word meaning a place to learn. More than 100 full-time students are enrolled in the more than 200 available courses. 50 students are housed in comfortable campus living quarters. The grand opening continued with an elaborate community feast before the celebration moved to Ipaluk Elementary School, where the Nuvugmut and Borough dance groups entertained until midnight. Soon after the grand opening, Ilisagvik President Shirley Holloway was appointed by Governor Tony Knowles to be Commissioner of the Alaska State Department of Education. She begins her new duties soon. Jerry Traynor has been appointed acting president of the college. An Eskimo dance kicked off the first governor's inaugural ball ever held in Borough on February 24. Governor Tony Knowles and Lieutenant Governor Fran Almer spoke briefly to the 300 to 400 people who gathered for the dance, joined local elders and community members for several dances, then watched as a Nuvugmut dance group performed. Governor Knowles Knowles and his wife Susan danced the first dance at the rock and roll ball that followed. They were joined by Lieutenant Governor Fran Ulmer dancing with Borough Mayor Don Long and North Slope Borough Mayor George Ahmaogak and his wife Maggie. After the first dance, everyone joined in, and the party lasted until early next morning. Knowles and Ulmer also met with local officials and supporters before leaving the next day for inaugural ball in Kotzebue. The North Slope Borough Assembly last month awarded Entech Incorporated a $5.5 million contract to install a solid waste incinerator in Borough. The high-tech incinerator, known as the Thermal Oxidation System, or TOS, will cut down on wind-blown trash, reduce polar bear encounters with people, and according to Entech, dramatically extend the life of Borough's nearly full landfill. According to Entech, the TOS is a patented technology that reduces solid waste into simple gas, then burns it to produce hot air, water, vapor, carbon monoxide, and ash. The environmentally friendly process produces no smoke or toxic fumes, operates quietly, and allows recycling of glass and metal. Entech is a subsidiary of Arctic Slope Regional Corporation. Entech President Mike Pope said once the thermal oxidation system proves its worth in Borough, he expects the borough to approve installation in each of the villages. The incinerator is scheduled to begin operation by the end of this year. For the North Slope Borough in Heartbeat, Alaska, I'm Tina Corwin, Koliganek.
Thank you, Tina. Let's travel now to our report from SKC-TV in Pablo, Montana. Pablo, Montana, the home of the Salish Kootenai tribe.
Good evening. This is Annette Brown reporting from Salish Kootenai College in Pablo, Montana. On February 23rd, Salish Kootenai College was the site of the latest AHEC Telecommunications Project teleconference. It originated from the SKC Public TV studio and aired for 2.5 hours. The topic of this teleconference was internet and email as used by the tribal colleges. There has been much coverage of buffalo wandering out of Yellowstone National Park in recent days, and the majority of the media coverage has focused on the shooting of these animals. As members of the Intertribal Bison Cooperative, the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes distributed to their tribal members meat from 35 of the slaughtered buffalo on March 4th. Approximately 9,000 pounds of roasts, steaks, and ground meat was distributed. And although there was a wait in line, 850 tribal members were able to share in the buffalo meat.
It for free, now we have to pass it out in packages.
The intent for us anyway is to get this to our people and so that they can enjoy it. It's something they've been deprived of for 100 years or better. And this goes to good use. I think the first priority that we'd like to see through the Intertribal Bison Cooperative is to ship the animals from the park live to reservations, to the tribes who want to raise them, and then the tribes can do with what they want, and whether they want to use it as an economic venture or give them out to the people like we're doing here today.
What happened? We're spread it. Our ancestors done it, so it's in our genes. Whether we've done it before or not, we can do it again. It's good. I like it.
In 1992, the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes applied to the Environmental Protection Agency to be treated as a state for the purpose of developing water quality standards on their 1.2 million acre reservation. Approved on March 1st, the treatment as a state recognition from the EPA has brought immediate opposition from local non-Indian landowners and the state of Montana. Governor Mark Roscoe has stated he is willing to work with the tribes, but is still going ahead and suing the EPA over the decision. As reported in the Missoulian newspaper, state officials claim jurisdiction over non-Indians and private fee patent reservation land.
It was kind of, our determination early on that the state had already made the determination to sue anyway, so no matter what happened, EPA would have been in a lawsuit, because if they would have disapproved our application, we would have sued. But in doing so, and proceeding with that designation, and in doing so, the EPA now begins a process to look at the tribal regulations. And the treatment as a state designation is not a regulatory program. So the tribes, we will not go out and regulate or permit point source water pollution. I feel everybody's been aware of what's been going on. The state's even been in that process. So as we move forward, I think it's just, you know, self-governance, tribal self-determination, and recognizing that Indian tribes are capable of dealing with issues on their reservation. So we're very pleased with the...
Also reported in the Missoulian newspaper, during an informational meeting, an unidentified man told EPA official John Wardell that non-Indians didn't want to be controlled by, quote, some so-called sovereign nation, end quote. For Heartbeat Alaska and SKC Public TV, this is Annette Brown. Lemlemsh.
Thank you, Annette. We're looking forward to your next report. Let's travel now to the village of Koliganek, Alaska. They held their first annual NYO.
Koliganek, Alaska is the uppermost community on the Nushagak River, located 65 miles northeast of Dillingham on the south bank of the river. Its name means last or upper village. It's a Yupik village of approximately 200 residents. It's situated in a roadless area accessible by air, boat, or snow machine, depending on the season. During the spring breakup season, its gravel runway is at times too soft to remain open, and the village is temporarily cut off from mail supplies and air travel. When the runway's in good condition, there's frequent air service from Dillingham air taxis, and mail is delivered 6 days per week. Koliganek is a member of the Southwest Region School District. During the school year, there is approximately 75 students, kindergarten through 12th grade, with 14 high school students. Recently, they held their first annual Native Youth Olympics. The students themselves chose Native Youth Olympics traditional games as opposed to wrestling or volleyball. Traditional Native games emphasize sportsmanship and personal excellence. If you don't make it the first time, try again. Boys and girls competed from the 7th through the 12th grade. Then this past weekend, they went on to compete in Bethel. In the first annual Koliganek High School Native Youth Olympics, other villages were invited to participate. Manakodak, Nustoyahuk, Alegnagik, and Togiak boys and girls all competed. The event was a weekend affair, including a village carnival, a dance, and a dinner. The present site of Koliganek, Alaska is relatively new. The first move occurred in 1940 because of a shortage of firewood in the original site at the mouth of the Nakak River. And the second move was in 1964 because of flooding problems. Traditional native game rules are followed rigidly. The games are often strenuous, as in this seal hop, hopping across the floor on toes and knuckles.
Hang in there, Nikolai. Hang in there. Hang in there, buddy.
The Koliganek School, by the way, won the All-Tourney Award in their first annual NYO. I'd like to thank Dick Montgomery, the principal of the high school, and also Becky Montgomery for the video, and Warren Kasayali from Koliganek, Alaska for his help on this story. And congratulations to all the students who participated in preparation for the statewide NYO to be held in Anchorage in April. Also, an interesting note, 3 students from Koliganek, Alaska are attending Salish Kootenai College in Pablo, Montana. We hope to get a story on them. Wouldn't that be fun? Let's travel now to Savoonga, Alaska. Native villages all over the state are taking substance abuse under control. Recently, the Bering Strait Community Partnership held a meeting in Savoonga.
Good evening, public of Savoonga. I'll call our meeting to order, and I will ask Emerson Kugatagoon if you will lead us in the opening prayer. Okay. Yeah.
Local problems are best solved by local people. That was the underlying concept of the Substance Abuse Prevention Program committee meeting held in Savoonga, Alaska. The group is a coalition representing 15 village groups. Savoonga was chosen as the site of this meeting because of its community-based grassroots efforts against substance abuse.
Part of why I wanted to have our meeting here at Savoonga is there's strong evidence that Savoonga people are working together.
Working together, the goal of many of the 15 health councils formed in each of the 15 villages in the Bering Strait region. The idea is that people support what they help create, in that government and or agencies do not have all the answers, although they do have resources. So what actually is a health council? Well, a health council is a group of friends in the villages who care about the future health of their friends and families. In Savoonga, for instance, the health council is working on an elder abuse problem and also home brew. These are not problems unique to Savoonga, Alaska. They're widespread around Alaska, Canada, and the lower 48. The shocking reality and little spoken of elder abuse is all too often tied to substance abuse by the perpetrator.
I remember my parents and the elders of our community always admonished us that what you do today, when you think you're going to get away with it, when you become that age where you're becoming an elder, all of those things come back to you. And I believe that. But we need to put a stop to that, where we need to advise the kids, the young people, that this is not something that you can get out and say you have all this strength that you want to do harm to someone else. It's not the right thing. And I would hope through some avenue that some of the younger people perhaps being helped a little more. I don't know what the situation is here in Savoonga in regards to places to meet and encouraging the young people for the harm that alcohol abuse does, the drug abuse, and some other things that are really affecting our young people. It's not, as Chairman Al said, it's not just here. It's all over our state.
To thine own self be true. If you take on a challenge and you're honest with yourself, then your own people will follow you. In your own heart, you know if you're honest. But if you have a double standard, the people will see through it too.
Young people such as we have mentioned here on board.
Do you know the difference between HIV and AIDS? Two, how safe? The virus does not discriminate.
I stay here in my heart, think we're dying.
We have always felt in harmony with the land.
Chakome, tapiwa, ta skumok, ta tapiachu, kenok honestje, matapiwa, makaspumos, akun.
Help the Soil Conservation Service help our earth. Call us today. We owe it to our children.
Inu pengisa Alaskam koverigat inu nernek nunakirani inu it pilwilingarwa te mangak takun inu nernek sikarnak sivlune sikarnai lipayaklugo savalrotiningarut inung nun pilwilingarwa nun savakpata ilisarumakpata piraknigugalwarle ilismapsao kuven kokuraklugo una 800-770-0138.
Thank you so much, everyone involved in getting the video from Savoonga, Alaska to Heartbeat, Alaska. Before we leave today, let's take a look at some more good Native music. Thank you so much for joining me once again for another Heartbeat Alaska. I'm Jeannie Green, and I'm looking forward to the video from your community, your village, or your reservation. Join me again next week for more Native news. I'll see you then.